say are going to be fun, and some of them are just going to be practical sense. We put too much pressure on ourselves to get things right, to know what to do, to feel like how do we know when we've established being on the spiritual journey? That's number one. The top 10 things to know about how to grow spiritually is: one, you came here to grow, and you are in
Yeah.
fact on the spiritual journey. The question is it moving fast enough for you? Are you growing in the ways that you feel like resonate with you? People feel by just normal behavior, you feel like, what is it going to take? Why am I not there? Why do I not have it? You're already on it. So if you look at it from that perspective, I'm already on the journey. What do I want my journey to be? How fast do I want to move? What do I want to be experiencing? What am I experiencing? Not really paying attention to what's going on in the physical, which is really giving you the signs of what's going on. So it's better to acknowledge that you're on the path than to worry about whether or not you're on a journey. Does that make sense? So the path that you are in right now, there's nothing more or less that you need to do or know in the moment other than pay attention to what is going on.
Okay.
And in that way, you will know, okay, oh, I can see a thing going on right now. I can see family structure, family issues, or familial things, or job related, or relationship related. Then that's simply your curriculum. It's that simple. The
Mm.
second thing is that there is pain and pleasure in all things. Most people are not really giving credence to the fact that in every single thing that we experience, there's pain and pleasure. And guess what? Because of the laws of polarity, it is in equal measure. So if you're
Mm.
thinking, I want to get somewhere and I'm not there yet, you don't realize that there's a cost to you getting there. There's going to be pain to get there. You don't realize that there's going to be pleasure. We have a tendency to we're the microwave society, and we want things quick and we want things fast and we want to go ahead and be there. But in that urgency, there's resistance. And that's
Yeah.
where you get into a lot of different things that happen with that. So if you understand you're already on the journey and that there is pain and pleasure in every single thing that you experience in life. I was telling a client the other day, I said, don't think for 1 minute that I don't expect to have health issues, because I will be healthy and I will be well. I will be sick and I will be healthy. I mean, it's all here and we came to experience. It's what we're doing with it. All right. And then the third one is everyone here and everything here is your servant, including the ego. So I want to talk about that for just a minute. Most people, most spiritual teachers, well meaning, are trying to teach, get rid of the ego. That's egoic. You shouldn't have that. Don't listen to the ego. And I go, really? Because the ego is your servant. So there was actually
Mm-hmm.
one point in my growth, Mariella, and all of you that are listening, thank you for being here. And those that are going to listen after this is done, there was a point where I told my daughter, I was on the phone with her, and it was while I was living that story that you know about in The Inmate and the Medium. And I said
Uh-huh.
to my daughter on the phone, I'm in love with the ego. And she's like, what? I've never heard that before. What are you saying? And I
Yeah.
said,
And
I
you say
haven't
that.
figured out that the ego is my servant. And so when the ego brings up negative thoughts, or when the ego brings up positive thoughts, I can't be a speaker without the ego. You can't do this summit today without the ego. You
Mm-hmm.
can't attend this summit without the ego. So look at the function of the ego and every single person and thing that is here as, wow, you're my servant. You're showing me something. What are you
Mm-hmm.
showing me? And how can I use it? So
Mm-hmm.
when I said I love the ego, I said the ego is bringing up all these fear things to help me choose. So at one point I started laughing, Mariella, and going, thank you. Thank you for bringing that forward. Now that I see it, now that I feel that feeling of that thought, of that limitation or lack of, and I was homeless at the time, I
Wow.
said, thank you. I'm going to use it. Now I get to choose. And so
Yes.
every single person is here really to help you identify yourself and to choose. One of the stories that I shared in the book is from one of my really good friends named Bear, who was letting me have it because I was determined that I was going to get this house to rent as a homeless person. I didn't even have furniture. I didn't have a washcloth. I didn't have a lamp. And I'm telling him outright, I'm going to rent this house that backs up to the lake. And he's like, you need to get with it. And he's just yelling at me, and you're not coherent. And I understand you're a spiritual teacher, but you're not acting real. This is real. And as he's on the phone, I'm going, you're my servant. How am I feeling? Oh, I'm getting mad at you. I'm getting frustrated. I'm mad at you for not believing what I believe. And then I stopped and said, thank you for being of service. You showed me what I don't want. Now I get to choose. And the very next day, I had the house approved.
Wow.
And he went to lunch. And as I got out of the car, he and his girlfriend, Donna, were standing there going, I don't know how you did it. I said, actually, I want to thank you, Bear, because you gave me the way to choose to make this decision and move into the house or not. You helped me. So everybody here is your servant. The fourth thing is that a lot of people don't know this, but when spirit gives you an idea, a thought, a discomfort, of feel the need of movement, you actually have to formally say yes or no. This is something a lot of people do not realize on the journey. If you don't address it and acknowledge it, then you will miss the opportunity. Have you heard people say, or even for you as the audience, have you thought of an idea, an invention or something, or this should be invented, and then a year and a half, 2 years later, it's on the market? That idea was coming to you for you to own, to grab it, to come in and say, it's mine. And my answer is yes. And when I was being taught this, Mariella, I was being taught, you have to answer us. Just because you get an idea, just because you have a thought, just because you feel this prompting to grow, if you don't say, yes, I'll grow, then you're left out. You're not really moving. You didn't get on the ride. In other words, you didn't get on the ride and buckle in and go, come on, let's ride this ride with spirit, with the non-physical. And so I was smart enough to know by that time, you give me these downloads, you give me all this great information, I need to anchor it in the physical. And I said, give me a story. So about an hour later, I'm on my way to the store and I heard, turn on your radio to this specific channel. So I did. Michael Jackson was being interviewed. And the interviewer asked him, where do you get your divine inspiration? And I'm like, really, you're letting me hear this interview, divine, he's using divine inspiration. And Michael said, I have a pen and a pad beside my bed. And when I go to bed, if God wakes me up with the lyrics or the music or whatever, I say yes and write it down, because if I don't, he'll give it to Prince.
Oh,
So
amazing.
when,
I love
I
that.
know, right? So when he died,
So you learned, so you got your lessons. Like, okay, now I understand.
that's something that I would say that we also would do really well, is integrating something that's given into the physical and asking, how do I anchor this? How can I relate to this? I will never forget that teaching because I asked for that, the communication. Number 5, your team is with you always and is there to support you and wants to communicate, which lends itself to what I was saying last time, formally answering. Now, anything, if you're somewhere and you lay your sunglasses down and you hear this prompting, don't leave your sunglasses there, you're going to leave them.
I hear that.
Thank the non-physical, thank your team. And the more you talk to them, if you could see what I see as a clairvoyant, you would see them dancing and pumping fists and high-fiving each other when you actually join in the communication and go, thank you. And then there have been other times that, believe me, I left my sunglasses in the restroom and lost the sunglasses. Because when I went back to get them, somebody had decided, oh, these are valuable, I'm going to take them. It's good for us to communicate. 6,
it is.
You are loved far more than you can measure. And the best thing that I can say to that is, and this is relational to the heart and heart energy. When you think about the chakra systems and you think about the heart, the throat, the third eye, and this one, those are 4 chakra systems that are from the heart above, which is representing the non-physical. The physical is represented from the soul chakra, the creative chakra, and the survival chakra. If you allow all of those to just run and you connect to the heart energy, then these will flow and not get stagnant and stuck. So one of the things that I say to my clients is, can you reach in your chest with your bare hand and pull out your heart? No, you can't. You can, in the same way, you cannot separate yourself from love. You are loved far more than you can measure, and you are loved every single minute, no matter what you are doing. All right. Number 7, your higher self and all of the non-physical and the physical are conspiring for your growth. And what I mean by that is that every single thing here, because I told you the very first one is you're on the journey. Every single thing that is happening in your life is conspiring for you to grow, to overcome. There's not one thing on the face of this earth that you can face that is not part of that conspiracy. If you are homeless right now, if you don't have enough money, if you don't know what to do because of COVID, if you're afraid because of COVID, if you are experiencing a relationship issue, if you're facing divorce, it's just part of your curriculum and you're in the conspiracy. And when you understand, I'm in that, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to communicate and say, all right, let's be done with this. I want to get, I used to say when I was a teenager, I would say to God, okay, I get it. I get it. When I'm in school, I can pass a test and I never have to worry about taking that test again, whether I fail it or pass it. Your curriculum, though, whenever I don't pass the test, you're going to give me that test over and over and over again. So I started praying as a teenager and saying, help me to pass your test. Help me to pass your test. I don't want to keep taking this test.
Yeah.
That's part of the conspiracy.
It is.
All right. Number 8, paying more attention to your own abilities is the way to gift others. Now, Mariella, you and I have talked about this because I've done sessions for you.
Yes.
When you earn your abilities, then you already have them. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about whether or not you're gifted. They're really not gifts. They're presented to you because you earn them. So some people call them gifts. I do not. I say, I freaking earned everything that I can do by doing the spiritual work. If I do not know how to use, and let's just take, for example, my sensitivities, my empathic abilities, my ability to read situation, people, thoughts, whether or not they're in pain, my ability to have clairvoyance, which goes into even seeing what is a body language or how a person moved or how their mouth moved or something, that's clairvoyance too. If I have those abilities and I don't use them for myself first, I really can't use them for you very well. So this idea that mediums do not get or cannot get or struggle with getting the same communication for themselves is BS. It's a belief system. And it's also bullshit. Because if you have that ability, you have that ability. So learning how to use it for yourself enables you to gift others by showing them how to use it. And that includes being able to set boundaries. I know I got to hurry. Number 9, whatsoever you focus upon expands. You are tapped in, tuned in, plugged in. You cannot unplug, just like you can't be unloved. You cannot unplug from universe and the laws that govern here. So because of that, what you think about, you expand and create more of. And then we get upset and then we start feeding that. And then what I call this tidal wave starts to form and it feels like it's going to overwhelm you, but it's really just your thoughts. If you'll turn and face them and say, that doesn't feel good, So because it doesn't feel good, it's out of alignment for me. And because it's out of alignment, I get to choose. I choose this opposite of that. That's a good way to look at it. Number 10, being you is the most important thing that you can give another. Now, this is not just what I just talked about, the abilities that you have, that you earned in this lifetime, that are non-physical abilities, things we usually don't think that much about. But this is also being you as a personality. One of the things that people are so surprised at me about is that I have literally gotten so mad at God that I've just shaken my fist at him at times in the car and just said, come after me, do me a favor, take me out. I'm so mad at you, and I hear laughter every time because I am a smartass. I'm spicy. I'm constantly doing things that are funny and humor and complicated, because sometimes I'm a complicated, sometimes I'm a really dumb blonde. And I just let myself be that way in front of God, in front of my team, and in front of you as individuals. I hope this helped, and I know I had to rush through it.
No, like that's why I'm not interrupting you, because I know everything that you have to say is healing and awakening. And I know a lot of people are just, being nurtured by what you said. So no, this is amazing. And I have learned all this from you. And I know, like, even like you said, we're in the journey. We all struggle in the journey. But one thing that I discovered the most is like in that relationship, like you said, like you can't learn to use your abilities to help others. Like you have to use them in yourself and anchor them and integrate them in you. Learn from your own experience, and from that experience, you can help another person. So everything you said is like, this is exactly how the journey started. It started like this, and we tweak it, and we make mistakes, and we remember again, and we keep going. And it's great. Thank you so much for everything, all this
You're
information.
welcome. Two of the
Yeah.
things I would say is that I'm writing a series of 7 books about relationships, because everything in this life is about your relationship with it, with self, with your mate or potential mate, with family, with the job, with money, with your furniture in your house. Believe it or not, your energy and everything else here is energy. So you have a relationship with it. That's why I'm writing a book of 7 series book called The Freedom Alchemist Relationship Principles. And it's going to cover not just romantic relationships, but your relationship with self. I would say that's the biggest bulk of my work. And one of the things that I offer is called The Power to Choose. And it's a program. And if anybody's interested, they just go to my website. And that forces you, really, because you get emails every other week, it forces you to really look at your life. I'm going very simply at first, but it's also very hard, because I'm telling you, look for this specific thing for the next 2 weeks, journal, write all this down. That self-discovery that you were talking about is the most important thing that we can do for anyone, including ourselves.
Yeah. And what can you say to people? Because I know in the beginning of my journey, like the way that I see you is like you're so free talking to God directly. People get so shy, or so like, do I talk to angels? Like, how do I talk to angels? How do I talk to God? They feel like they're not allowed somehow. How can they give themselves permission to just say, like, that's it, I'm just creating that relationship and I'm going to go with it? Like, what can you say to people like that are still
You're
shy about
in a relationship. You can't separate yourself. It's that you are taught not to communicate. You're taught not to embrace. You're taught to look more at the physical or the emotional realm instead of the spiritual realm. But if you look at yourself as the Holy Trinity of spirit, mind, and body, spirit, emotion, and physicalness, which includes everything in the physical, when that's not all 3 being embraced, then you're literally like cutting off part of your body and saying, I don't communicate with that. So this realm that we are in right now is really based on just the physical, survival, and the emotional. We're starting to spring upwards from just looking at the physical to looking more at the emotional. But what if you connected the spiritual? And if you think about it, there's not one of you that could not tell me that you have not had a spiritual experience. that you haven't had something phenomenal, that you haven't had a dream that left you when you woke up thinking, God, that felt real. Well, guess what? It was real. So all of us are spiritual beings. We're all having spiritual experiences. If you're not acknowledging it, it's kind of like Michael Jackson. Prince is going to get the song.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
so we all have it. There's nothing missing in you. You
Yeah.
are
And
connected.
we keep thinking that there's no help out there when they're trying to communicate, but we're just thinking like, oh no, that's just like a fantasy. Like we have to change that and really create that relationship.
I will
That
tell
has
you that I struggled with that myself, because for about 13 years, I literally shut this down. There were miracles and people were getting healed, and I was scanning their bodies, and I still have those abilities. But I stopped it for 13 years, Mariella, because I was in a very abusive and bad marriage, and I needed to do something for me. And it was very wise. So for 13 years, I didn't say God's name. I didn't say spirit. I didn't say anything spiritual. Most people don't know that story. But when that occurred, I ended up coming back. Somebody handed me a book, and the energy of the book went, oh God, here it comes. It's coming back. Because I said to God, if I can get mature, then bring it back in, because I want to do it with just love. So somebody handed me a book, I got activated, and then I started questioning whether or not I was communicating, believe it or not. And I remember saying to God one day, I said, all right, okay, here's the deal. I'm dramatic. You know this about me. I'm dramatic. I learn in dramatic ways. So just give me the answers in a dramatic way. Come on. Give me a burning bush. Give me a burning bush, and then I'll know for sure it's you. And I have to tell you that I heard laughter. And I'm like, why are you laughing at me? And I heard, do you really think that I'm not creative enough to reach you right where you are? He was in a wilderness, and there wasn't anything to do except a burning bush, Tammy. With you, I'm going to touch you in your own way that means more to you. I only did one burning bush. So the problem that we have when we're thinking about communication with the non-physical is, okay, you communicate with Tammy this way, you communicate with Mariella, you communicate with, all these people this way. Why are you not communicating with me that way? Well, you are being communicated with. You're not listening. You're not looking for it. So a better question would be, how can I know it's you? And one of the things that I have taught my clients is to say, if this is not Christ consciousness or higher, I'm not going to remember this in an hour. If it really is you prompting me to do something, then make it very dramatic for me. I say make it very dramatic. Give me another sign. And people, total strangers in a store, will come up to you and go, okay, well, when are you going to write your book? And then just walk away from me. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So God's creative, and he's got creative ways of reaching you.
Yeah. It's in a specific way, a very special way, the way that you were built. I got to live that now, and you're right. We just have to allow that relationship to grow, to deepen. That's the way that I see it. Like I want to deepen this relationship so that I know what's God and what's the world, and how do I walk in the middle, in that middle path. Thank you so much. That was all great.